Lightweight gear, that's a much better way to go. All right, what we mean here by base weight under 15 pounds, base weight is the weight that you carry, you still have at the end of the trip. So it is your tent, your sleeping system, your clothes, your kitchen, but no food, no water, no fuel. So we want to get our base weight as low as possible. There are people who can get it down to 8 pounds if the weather is just perfect in the summer, but getting it down to 15 is a pretty great start. Let's look at backpacks first. You can see there people mistook us. We were out for 14 days, and people mistook us for being out for a day hike. Yeah, here's not how to go. Just stacking a pack on a pack on a pack, tipping over backwards. So yeah, even these guys, a little bit better job than the first. You still see packs hanging off, but there you go in the middle, right under Kings Peak, is a yeah, that's probably a 10 or 11 pound base weight and pound and a half, 2 pounds of food per day, a little bit of fuel and water you're resupplying as you go. Some of the ways that, well, take a look here. You can see that our packs are pretty small. There's a fly rod in the one on the right. And one of the ways to make sure that because we carry maybe a little less clothes than we might, uh, we got up in the mornings and we didn't cook breakfast until the sun was out and we had warmed up from walking. So we dropped the tents really quickly. Having lighter weight packs, you can see this crossing among others. Or sometimes chest deep. And when you pack, with a base weight of 15 and you got 10 pounds of food, you still have, a 30-pound pack or less. So it's pretty easy to carry it in your arms, lift it up over your head in the deepest spots. When I get my pack down here, under 25 pounds, I can fish along. I'm trying to circle this lake and get to the far end, but it was a lot easier to just go ahead and leave the pack on. Pretty darn comfortable. All right, switching to shelters. Right there in the center, you can see three tents. These are also from the company Tarp Tent. So what they are is a floor suspended on netting with a tarp. So it really is a single wall tent with a little bit of extra netting at the foot of the tent and in the doorway, which is enough to keep the mosquitoes out. But that tent for two people is, 2 or 3 pounds, uh, uh, you know, a third of the weight of a majority of backpacking tents. There you are. They're bigger than you think. So you're looking into that, and there's a hoop at the far end. You just use a hiking pole and a crossbar that you can attach to hold up the front end. The front end, which is what you're looking at, the woman in the green coat, is a layer of mosquito netting there, and then the doors themselves fold down to make a vestibule. And here are two of us inside. There's the foot. There's a little bit of netting around the edges too, and then netting at the door, and then a long rain fly that almost makes it to the ground all the way around. Yeah, there we are, a little community of looks like caterpillars out there in our lightweight under 3 pound tents. This tent system's a little bit heavier. It's closer to the traditional design. It has a free or a mosquito netting tent, so a complete tent on the inside, and then this is the rain fly on the outside, which is quite complete. This is the one I've had in snow when it snowed in, June and September. But here it is without the rain fly. It's just a nice mosquito netting tent and almost freestanding, not quite. You still stake it out, which is fine with me because freestanding always means extra weight and extra poles. And there it is after the snow has been shaken off after a few inches of snow during the night. Tarps are always a lightweight option. If I'm carrying a tarp, I usually carry a bivy sack, and at that point, I start getting up to the weight of the really lightweight tents that we just looked at. Um, and tarps are nice to have for hanging out under anyway. Sleeping systems. So now we are thinking about everything that's going into the pack. So you are carrying a tent, you're carrying, or a tarp, you're carrying a sleeping bag, you're carrying clothes, and we need to think about it as a system. So if you have nice puffy clothes to sleep in, you don't need to have quite as heavy of a sleeping bag. That's the way I prefer to go, a little bit lighter in the sleeping bag end of things, and maybe bring a little bit of extra clothing, because the clothing I can keep using around camp, where the sleeping bag I think is something that belongs in the tent. But not everybody agrees. There are other people who go the other route, and they carry less clothing, assuming they'll just wrap up in their sleeping bag around camp. Um, and that's a choice. People can choose to have less clothing, more sleeping bag, or more clothing, less sleeping bag. For a sleeping bag, there are ways to cut your weight too. I mean, for your sleeping pad. So that black pad runs pretty much from the curve of my butt up to my shoulders, so the most critical part. Uh, and then I also carry a small air mattress, and them out in the tent. So those are things that just live in the tent. The closed cell foam pad, though, that was out in the last picture, is also my butt pad for sitting on to stay warm there, which helps you not need quite as much clothing. And then inside the tent, there's my small air mattress. Uh, it really isn't much bigger than my fist once it's rolled up. And then my backpack itself, which has a lumbar pad and a pad down the middle, that's what my feet sit on. So they get to, yeah, not roll around a whole lot with my feet, or they fall off the pad. All right, for the kitchen, the biggest piece of equipment here that you want to rethink is your stove. And all of these pictures are going to be of alcohol stoves. And you can see it right off the toe of her front boot. And this is a specific brand that is the Caldera stove. And it's a soda can stove, and it's commercially made. The pot fits exactly into the windscreen. This is a different stove. It's got, you have to have your own windscreen. You can make it out of several layers of aluminum foil. This is a little bit heavier. But you can see that the jets blow out the sides. So when you put the fuel in, you have to let it burn for a minute so it gets hot enough. You start seeing the flames go out the side. Then you can put your stove or your pot right directly on top of the stove, and it heats up from around the outer edges. Alcohol stoves are lightweight because there's nothing to pressurize. Uh, you can find directions on how to make these. You can buy them. This is the one out of the Caldera stove. And there's the windscreen. The other nice thing that you're seeing is the green bottle there is just a soda bottle. This is the only fuel that you can carry in just a plastic bottle. Pot fits right into, so it has to be a pot custom made for that, or the other way around. You tell them what pot you have, and they send you the windscreen that fits that, or you buy the two together from them. Yeah, that's the looking down inside the alcohol stove is burning away underneath, and we're cooking up here on top. Um, Over there to the background, that's the alcohol in just a plastic bottle. So that's pretty weight saving. Using titanium for the most part, it's lightweight. Um, and then over to the right there, that is insulation for my pot. That way I can keep my drinks warm without much weight. That's actually using reflectors, the reflective stuff out of your windows for your cars, and then just snipped up into shape and taped together. Once your trip's more than about a week long, these canister stoves with the really tiny lightweight heads for them are more efficient, because butane does have more BTUs per ounce, but then all of your equipment is heavier. So, whoops. Oh well, we lost our picture. Um, so yeah, after a week, it's the less efficiency of alcohol versus butane, you can start moving into the really lightweight stoves. Okay, here's some students on a 3-day trip that decided no stove at all, and they brought peanut butter and jelly and had sandwiches and all kinds of stuff that didn't require cooking for those 3 days, and they're still strong, healthy young men. So here's a clear morning after a stormy night, and we just got up in that morning. Everybody was a little bit chillier than usual, so we just quickly packed up our camp, and we left within about 15 minutes of waking up and packed everything a little bit damp and started hiking until we all warmed up and the sun came out, and we had a great breakfast, coffee, and everything up here with a wonderful view instead of back in the trees where we had been. For lunches, no cooked lunches, just a variety of whatever it is you like for lunches. You can see cashews, candy, and crackers at that moment. Lunch begins, we like to say, immediately after breakfast and ends shortly before dinner. So you're not making big long stops and elaborate lunches. All right, clothing for your feet is going to be a little bit different. There I am next to a black bear track. So a trail running shoe is what I usually use. They have a little bit thicker sole. In fact, I use Hoka's now. And then a really lightweight Lycra gaiter to keep some of the dirt out, but it's almost pointless because the front of the shoe is mesh. I carry just one pair usually, and that pair is going to get wet. There's no doubt about it. And it's really fast. You just cross the streams, you know you're going to get wet, so you just go. And then when you get to camp, you need a solution. So drying off your old wet feet if they got wet, and then putting on a dry pair of socks, and then putting those dry pair of socks and foot inside a plastic bag that then goes back into your old wet shoe because that's all you have. And it gets a little bit damp, so I do have a hiking pair of socks. I do have a camp pair of socks, and then I have a sacred pair of socks that only live in the tent. They don't ever come out. So sometimes I cheat, okay? And my sacred socks might be down like these yellow ones. So, and they are only in the tent and in my sleeping bag. And then I do have some neoprene socks. I do find those handy because my feet are no longer what they used to be. I now have Raynaud's, and yes, I have just totally lost all circulation there at 63 degrees because I let myself get chilly. So the neoprene socks, I will wear them often during the day if I've got stream crossings, if I've got to walk through snow, and all I have are running shoes. So yeah, neoprene socks sneak into my pack sometimes. So this is an extra snowy year in the Wind Rivers in July, and we are in running shoes. Everybody has just a one pair. So we did the 3-sock system throughout that trip. With a 3-sock system, you've got a lot of washing to do. So there's my washing machine, that plastic bag over there. You can see the water's not too clean. I've been kneading them for a while, giving it a good shake with a little bit of soap and then a lot of rinse. And yeah, every other day I'm doing my laundry. Although the very wettest trips where I'm in and out of the creeks, they stay pretty clean, just getting washing with all the stream crossings. Clothing doesn't change as much if you're already using some of the best of gear that's out there. You're always looking at lots of layering and being able to switch quickly from pulling off different layers. All of it needs to be synthetic, breathable, dries quickly. All these under layers needs to be able to trap air with some of your insulating layers. And then you need a protective layer on the outside, which is also going to be your wind layer. So yeah, everything in all of this lightweight stuff, the more multiple uses any item has, the better off you are. That is a very lightweight ice axe that he has there. We're climbing in the Tetons here. Not a great image of it, but that's a platypus water bottle right under the ice axe. Very lightweight, very flexible. If they're not holding water, you can fold them up, roll them up, and then they're also quite small. And they weigh, I don't know, much, much less than most of the water bottles that people use. So that saves you some weight there in gear. A lightweight Gore-Tex raincoat, a lightweight Gore-Tex pants, and then synthetic clothing underneath. And when you get to camp, you can pull out your puffy layers. Majority of these are synthetic, but I bet one or two of those are down also. You'll also see several people here wearing mosquito netting uh, over their heads, so they don't have to put as much DEET on. You can see a lightweight kitchen over there, platypus bags, caldera stove, and lightweight food bags that we had to hang off a cliff here. There weren't any trees to hang it off. Hanging the food was for bears. We are here in bear country. So I've lightened up my fishing gear even more since then. I would never carry that Cordura blue bag. I would just put everything in a little Ziploc bag and in a pocket. That fly rod is inside a plastic case that would go over a fluorescent light. So go to the hardware store, see if they have fluorescent light covers, and then you cut it to shape and tape on the caps, top and bottom, the top end with a string. It's not perfect, but it's extremely lightweight. And then don't need that many flies or that much line, so I don't need that bag anymore. And then you see in the background bear spray, of which if you're traveling solo, you probably want to carry two. Otherwise, everybody should have one because there's nothing worse than using up your spray can and still have to hike out because then you don't have any. So good idea to have multiple spray cans on a trip. So here we are, 14 days and a happy crew with people mistaking us for day hikers occasionally. So this is a group trip. Here's going lightweight. This is another group trip. And then this is the picture I thought we were going to have. Going solo for a 4-day weekend with a 22-pound pack. Pretty nice way to go. So that wraps up the quick version of lightweight gear.